dash on the other side of the road now. Just keep this brightness here. Let me tell you folks, lovely Saturday morning today. Cops are busy today.
For something, I do stuff like, do you work for yourself? Do you work for somebody else, or like what?
Work for myself.
Is it something that you tell people what it is, or is it some top secret? Because I'm president of Dream Livers Club, so we're operating as PennsPowerClub.com this decade, Dream Livers Club next decade. I'm hiring people because I do stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
So I'm on Instagram.
Okay.
Right. So my dad was from Johnson's Way. He's a scholarship winner. He went to Canada on scholarship, did his Bachelor of Commerce at the university formerly known as Ryerson. I'm a scholarship winner. I did my Bachelor of Commerce at the University of Toronto. I worked at Microsoft Canada, and then I bought my domain investments and I built websites. This is my one for the young people.
Yeah.
Right, free scholarships.
Free scholarship.
My dad was Humphreys.
Yeah.
Okay,
That is
Bernard Humphreys. You know, my uncle is here still. But my dad went to Canada, and then in the pandemic, I got let go from my job, but I was ready with my company. Since '99, I incorporated my first company. '96, I was valedictorian of my high school in Canada, because my father taught me how to live, my father taught me how to give, my father taught me to delight in doing what's right. My father taught me how to write and how to recite. My father taught me how to think. My father helped me to not sink when I tried to stay afloat. When I was drowning, he threw me that life-saving rope. He taught me to avoid dope, to never try sniffing coke. He taught me never to get drunk and to never start to smoke. My father taught me to instead get high on life, and he taught me that even when times are rough, if I followed his advice, I'd still always be ahead. I made my mistakes, but my father forgave and taught me to pray for forgiveness before I went to bed. My father was my coach. Baseball coach, and made me the MVP. My father taught me how to study and learn how to be, yet to never settle for a B when I got 97% in grade 9 math. My father asked me what happened to the other grade. So I got 100% in grade 10 math to make my father proud of me. My father taught me how to learn and earn my degree in lifeology. My father taught me how to see the goodness in his family and humanity. My father taught me how to live. My father taught me to forgive because he constantly had to forgive me. He taught me all that he could, and then he set me free to explore humanity, even though he knew I would die someday. Because humanity would not always be how we all knew that humanity should be. My father loved me and taught me how to love, but knew that humanity would not always be as loving as he was to me. So my father sacrificed me. My father set me free. My father taught me to love him, and even those who hated me as much as he loved me, and to do unto all as it happened to do unto me. My father on earth whom I love, Bernard Humphreys. He was born May 15th, 1944 in Johnson's Point.
Okay.
And he died November 27th, 2014 in Canada, in Toronto.
Sorry to hear about that, man.
Okay,
so how long you're here in Antigua?
I'm here until 2030. I chose to retire
Okay,
here.
all right, okay.
Get back into politics in Canada. God willing, after 2030.
All right.
Okay, so I do the longest, strongest challenge in the world since 2010, the Dream Decade Challenge. Because Bill Gates has a quote, and I used to work for him. Okay? Worked at Microsoft Canada 98, 99, planned my whole career in one document. Then again, after I graduated from University of Toronto with distinction in 2001, again in 2002. Bill Gates' quote is this: most of us overestimate what we can do in 1 year and underestimate what we can do in 10 years. So in 2010, I said, okay, I started the longest, strongest challenge in the world, the Dream Decade Challenge. I bought DreamDecadeChallenge.com, okay, one of these websites. And I said, I'm going to write down my dream for the decade. So I wrote it down on the website. Okay, I was the only one in Toronto Poets that wrote it down. I said my dream for the decade was to get our show on TV. Now at the time we were doing a show in person called Saturday Night Love. Okay, we would meet at restaurants, and then we moved up to the theater. Okay, we did 87 nights at Talent Talk and Teaching Saturday nights. And then I said I want to get the show on TV. Okay, so then we moved up to the theater, right, so that we could get the show on TV. but I thought that it would take me a decade, okay? So that year, January 1st, 2010, I wrote down that was Lynch, get a show on TV. And then we did a First Nation Summit. February we did Black people, we did African Summit, okay? And I asked, what does it take? You know, is Canada ready for a Black Prime Minister? There were some people that asking questions of me, like if I was running. I said no. But they didn't put the show on TV. But then in April, I did the Asian Summit, okay? And I asked my Asian friend who is an artist, guitarist, and singer, and she could rap too, I think. I asked her to be the feature because I'm not Asian, obviously, right? So then she said yes, so she was the feature. She told her friends at the station in Toronto, the multicultural station that had an Asian show, that we were doing an Asian Summit. Toronto Post doing an Asian Summit, even though it was a Black president, right? She's a feature. They came and filmed the show and put it on TV, okay, April. So watch this. I realized I have to dream bigger because God made my dream come true in 4 months, okay? My dream for 120 months, okay? You see the math, because, right? 12 times 12 months, right? Yeah. Times 10 years, 120 months. Came true in 4 months, so I said, look, I need to dream bigger. So I said, forget about Toronto Poets, it's too small. Toronto was too cold. I had a lot of debt. I don't want to do a world tour. And then nobody was ready, and I didn't have any funding, and I didn't have any money. I just had debt, like $25,000. So I sold my house, and I paid off the debts, and I started over with penspowerclub.com. Okay? I said, okay, I believe the pen has the power to influence minds and produce prosperity. So we read books, write books, soar, live our God-given dreams. So then I went back to work. I worked teaching. At first I was consulting, and then I didn't get enough gigs. And then they offered me a job at my church's Christian school, and I taught math, English, and French. But those kids were not easy to teach because I was a gifted kid. I got, passed a gifted test in grade 7, supposed to send a student in grade 8. And I got 100% of grade 10 math. I got highest marks in English, math, Latin, law, French, accounting. Plus my dad, he was a scholarship winner. He got the best marks in Antigua. They said that when he was away, the Latin teacher would not teach. It's a good thing he was only away one day. My dad got such good marks that they said that when he was in second form, grammar school for the people that I didn't even know what forms were, but grammar school, second form, they said when he was in second form, my uncle took me to meet the guy that was in his class. He said he saw it, witnessed it. He got called out of class by the 5th form math teacher to solve a problem that the math teacher could not solve. My dad went up, solved the problem, and went back down to his class and didn't miss a beat. I said, how could he miss anything? He would have told the teacher, you're going to have to stop teach. Because how could it be fair if I'm getting called out of class, right? to do work for the teacher 3 grades up, doing his job for him, and then I miss class, and then I have to take notes off these students that don't get good marks. Then it's like copying off how to be president off Donald Trump. It's you copy somebody that doesn't take good notes and they're not paying attention, you're going to get wrong answers, right? So the teacher would have said, yes, you're right. I'm going to have to stop teaching. We'll have to wait until Bernard Humphrey come back, right? Because otherwise it would not be fair. Okay, so the thing is, I was just used to that, but these kids, they had skipped class so much in the public schools in Canada that they got kicked out of the public schools. And then their parents had to pay to send them to a private school that I was teaching at. So the kids weren't paying attention, and I teach people that's the first principle out of 7 principles for life that won me 7 scholarships in the biblical. Pay attention. Because 3 years ago when I came down here before I retired, I was just spoken to place, I was talking to ministry and thing. I was telling them about my Think Freely Gifted program, but I didn't have budget to do it for free. Now I do it for free. But the thing is, so I had to go back up. But before I went back up, I was thinking about a girl I met on Facebook that's back in Toronto. I was thinking about her. I wasn't paying attention, and I fell in a hole. One of these here, and I scraped my thing. I still have the scar. So that's when I wrote down. I said the first principle for life is pay attention. There's no such thing as smart or stupid. There's just paying attention and not paying attention. Paying attention is free, but it's more valuable than any course you can make for. Listen, it's not because I was stupid, I just was not paying attention. I was thinking about a girl instead. And the thing in Canada, we don't have as many of those, okay? So the thing is, I was expecting that it was a sidewalk, but then I was like, oh, and it was bleeding profusely, right? And then a nurse came by the Burger King over there, and she said, I'm gonna have to get stitches. She said, it's that deep. I said, okay. So I had to go to the hospital. I got stitched the first time in my life because I wasn't paying attention, not because I was stupid. Just wasn't paying attention. So, the kids, these were kids that weren't paying attention. So I had gotten 100% of grade 10 math. I didn't go to teacher's college, but because I got 100%, they asked me if I could teach math. And because I got the French award, et je peux parler français, je suis bilingue, je voulais être qualifié d'être Premier ministre du Canada. Donc, j'ai fait mineur en français à l'Université du Québec à Chicoutimi. I said I wanted to be qualified to be Prime Minister of Canada, so I took French and minored it at University of Quebec. So I was bilingual, so I could teach French. The French teacher quit. At the church I was ordained at, so they asked if I could teach French. I said, of course. I got a French award. I'm bilingual, and I minored in French at University de Quebec at Chicoutimi, right? I stayed with the French family, became bilingual in 5 weeks. They said it's fast. I said I'm high on the spectrum. So it wasn't that fast for me. It took a long time. 5 weeks was a long time for me, right? So the thing is, and that was because I was paying attention, because there's other people, they do the exchange program, and they don't come back bilingual because they're always cheating. Because they say if you go on an exchange, you're supposed to speak that language, right? They say if they hear you speaking English 3 times, you get kicked out. But they cheat themselves. They cheat, so they cheat themselves. Because if you go all the way to Quebec to a French school for 5 weeks, you're supposed to go there to speak French, and you live with a French family. If you cheat and speak English the whole time, you're cheating yourself. And this is what people don't realize. When they cheat themselves. If you cheat on your spouse, you cheat yourself. She find out, she kick you out, and then all of a sudden you're out there. And then you find a nice girl, and she say, well, I thought you used to be married to so-and-so. And you say, oh, yeah. And then they say, well, and then you ask them out, and they say, but what happened to your wife? Did you cheat on her? And you say, oh, well, right? So when you cheat yourself. You know, there's no other thing. If you cheat on a test, you cheat yourself, right? Because you don't learn, and then they keep passing you through if you don't get caught. But then one time somebody said, oh, you know, I wonder if you could tell me how to do this math problem, because then I could give you $1 million, because this is a house, and you could, and then you're like, oh, well, I graduated, but I'm not sure how to do the fix and flip, because see, and then instead of selling your property for $1 million, because you know it's a time to sell, you end up not even having a property. You end up being property in the prison, because that's what it is. It's people that weren't paying attention, and they thought they could cheat. And eventually, you don't win if somebody catches you cheating. You just put off getting caught, because then you do a bigger thing, and then you say, yeah, this has worked so many years. Let me go steal the bank. That's how people rob bank. People think they don't make sense. That why would you rob a bank? But I had one person. He said, you know, and he wasn't related to me, but I say he's distant. But now I don't know where he is, but hopefully he's okay. But he got caught for shoplifting. I said, why would you shoplift? Like what? Right? Sorry. I said, why would you think you would get away? He said, you don't know how many times I got away with it. I said, I don't care. You're in prison. Right? So if you get away with shoplifting 100 times, so you get away with 100 crimes, it doesn't matter if the 101st time you get locked up. It doesn't matter. See, this is the thing. People don't realize when they cheat themselves. Because imagine you cheat on 10 tests and you don't get caught. Well, you never learn anything except you how to cheat successfully, but there's no cheating successfully. Because eventually, at some point, you end up like DT. I don't like to call his name. But even if you make it all the way to the presidency, you end up eventually getting locked up, and other people get upset. Look, you know, people could have come here and worked for themselves, but instead people decide to get black people from Africa to work for them. Okay, so they cheat. The thing is, if you know how to do a ship, you can know how to pick cotton, okay? But they said, look, there's too much work for me to do it myself. Let me get some Africans. And then they can do it for me for free, right? But then what happened is you don't really learn how to do it for yourself. It causes all the problems, and then you end up getting kicked out. You have to leave in disgrace. And then people talk to you, the citizens, and say, wait a minute. Are you one of the people descended from one of the people that enslaved me? And you say, oh, no, I erased that history. No more. Okay, look.
All right.